Well, it's about time to lubricate the overhead garage door. I try to do it at least once a year. Twice a year would be even better to keep it in tip-top shape. And I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, when it comes to lubricating and maintaining your overhead garage door, you've got a few options here. One is white lithium grease, and I've got a couple examples here. Another is silicone, and I've got two examples of that here. This blaster that's made especially for overhead garage door lubricating is a silicone-based lubricant. And then WD-40, a lot of people have that laying around, but that is not a recommended lubricant, but we are going to use that for something on maintaining this door. I'll show you how I do it. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is open up the door and clean the track. Now you can see this track is pretty dirty and greasy, and you don't want that. That's more friction. So what I'm going to do is take the WD-40, that's where this comes in. I'm going to spray this track and wipe it off. And you mainly just need to do this pocket of the track right here. The rest isn't really used, it's just a guide, but it does ride in this track. And you can see how nice and clean that is now, and how dirty it was. Now the next thing we're going to do is close the garage door so we can do the rest of the service. And with the garage door down, now we can access the rest of the track. And you can see how greasy and gummy it gets in here. There's the before, and there's the after, just like new. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. There's the before, and there's the after. That WD-40 really does a great job at breaking down that hardened-on grease. And as you're doing this, you want to be careful not to cut yourself on this metal. Sometimes this can be a little sharp here. Now with our tracks all clean, we're going to move on to the hinges and rollers. And I take my spray with the straw for doing these and hit the hinge side and hit the other hinge side and get it from the outside too. And then, of course, you want to keep your door clean and wipe off around here. Now, I'll do a whole row, and I'm just going to let that soak in. And then I'll go back and wipe that off. But I do wipe the door off right away. But I like to let that soak in. Now, I don't use the lock on this door because I've got a garage door opener. On my single door over there, I do not have an opener, and I do use the lock. But if you're using your lock, it doesn't hurt to give it a little shot in there, and you can go in where the lever comes out on both sides. That'll keep that operating smooth. And the nice thing about the silicone and the lithium grease is it lubricates, but it does not attract grease and dirt. So you won't get that buildup like you saw in the track. Now here we've got a hinge that we need to lubricate. You do that the same as the other hinges, but we also have the roller and the pin here. You want to lubricate in here from the back side going in here. And also, this has bearings. This wheel has bearings right in here that fit on there. You see how the pin's spinning and the wheel's not? In that gap there are bearings in there. Depending upon what style you have, you might have bearings on the outside, but you want to lubricate that. If you have a nylon wheel with a solid shaft, you don't lubricate those at all, or the track. You just leave them alone. But if you see you've got a gap in there where there could be bearings or a gap around here for bearings, you want to lubricate that with a lithium or silicone. And I try to work it in there and let it soak. Of course, you want to wipe it down so your door doesn't get dirty, but let it soak in there. And then we do the hinges the same way. Of course, I go across that, get that gap in that sleeve showing, and you can lubricate right in there. And my door's not dirty, so I'm just going to let that soak while I do all of them. One thing you can do, if the wheels are dirty from your track being dirty, I just take my rag, spin the wheel around, and just clean that up. Real easy. And now we'll move on to the rail of the garage door opener. Now where the friction comes into play on the garage door opener is on the top of this rail here. And I can feel mine is all gummed up. I don't know if you can see that, but it's all gummed up. So I'm going to go back to the WD-40 and I'm going to clean that. I'm just going to spray the WD-40 along the track. And I've got the chain drive. If you got the belt drive, you're probably not going to have this dirt on here. But I'm just going to soak that down, wipe it off, and then I'm going to lubricate just the top of that with the lithium or silicone. And if you let that WD-40 soak in a little bit, it really bites through that hardened-on grease and cleans it up real nice. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Now like I said, this WD-40 is not a lubricant, so I'm just using this for cleaning. And you want to be careful in doing all of this that you don't have a car parked underneath here because it will get dirty. Yee-doggy, smooth as silk. And now I can lubricate that with my lithium or silicone. Just do the top. I got a little bonus safety tip for you. One way that burglars get into homes is through the garage door. Now you say, if I got my garage door opener, how are they going to get in the garage? Well, it's real simple. Your top panel is flexible. That's moving away from the header here. They'll stick a wire right up through there. There's plenty of space. Have a little hook on it. They'll hook your rope, the release rope. They pull it right through, pull this, and it opens the release. They lift the door right up, walk right in your house. I put a zip tie on here. It's on this release. There's a hole on the release. I took the zip tie through that hole, and then there's a little screw on the side, and I just attached it there, and you can't open this. There's no way they're getting in. If I need to get in, I'll just cut it from the inside and then put another one on. That's a little safety tip for you. I just want to mention, I've had this garage door opener in for over 20 years, and other than a cloudy lens, she's been working like a champ. It pays to maintain your equipment. Now on to the drums, which are those two end rollers. There's one on each end. Now there is a bearing right in here, and it's tough to access, but I do wipe this down, get the grease and dirt off, and spray it, because your shaft right here is just turning inside this bearing here. And you can try to hit it in here a little bit too. And it's good to have your straw for this. And I just let that soak in, do both sides. Leave it sit for a little bit and let it soak in. Now last but not least are our torsion springs. And they have only so many duty cycles up and down depending upon what kind of spring you get. It pays to lubricate these and to keep them moist because they'll get brittle and break. and they're going to break anyways. But if you lubricate them, you get more life out of them. Now there is a bearing in here, but you can't access that bearing unless you're changing out your springs. And I always lubricate that when I change the springs out. And again, you don't want to get your door dirty, but you do want to lubricate this well. And it'll work its way in. And I try to hit the top so it runs down the back side too. Just like that, nothing to it. And I just let that soak in and go over and do the other side. You can see how that soaks right in there. Beautiful. It's already starting to drip just a little bit. Just take a rag to the bottom side, catch the drips. And we'll go ahead and run it a couple revolutions. If this video was a help to you, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And I look forward to helping you with other projects online.